Welcome to the marvelous Called to Defend podcast. I am Caleb Elliott, and I am joined by Josh Davis.
Why? Why?
Who is regretting life decisions right about now.
Ready my partnership.
I'm just going to get an email tomorrow. You are no longer a part of Called to Defend.
It's going to be your formal notice.
Yeah, really. And I just got to write down that I used the marble pun.
Of course you do. Of course you do. All right. Well, so this is our third part of the Mountain podcast. And last time was the trying to get through Josh's 7 to 8 pages of notes of wonders, of which, oh man, there's so much good stuff in Genesis 2 to talk about. I would love to have just stayed there for a while, but I know that we couldn't do that. And that's fine. We're going to keep going. I think we kind of got the theme understanding of Genesis 2 laid out, where you have it is the place of life, it is the place of God's presence. Visions can happen there. You have I think those are the kind of big three things that are happening there. So you have the testing moments as well. You have potential for testing moments, all being part of that entire narrative. And so we're going to see how all those things kind of play out from time to time. This next one, we don't quite get that entirely, but we do at the same time. We're kind of going in a slightly different direction. And it's one that I don't know. I think is one that kind of gets looked over a little bit sometimes. Kind of just forgotten, which is Noah's Ark, which is funny because we were just talking about how it's one of the most known passages, but mostly for its zoo boat imagery over everything else that happens in it. And it's going to be a good time, I think. It'll be fun. I have less notes today on this topic. By that, I mean about 4 pages less.
Good grief.
4 pages less.
So that's still 3 pages.
It's still 3 pages. But, hey, would you rather it be 7 pages again?
No.
So, as we've been going through this, we're going to be looking at the word Har, which refers to the hill country, individual mountain/mountains, in the land of mountains, mountain of God. It's referring to just the general vicinity of where mountains are. It could be the actual mountain itself or everything that surrounds the mountain. You would make a rock joke right now, don't you?
So badly, but keep going.
Make your joke.
No, that's okay. I'll save it.
Okay. So we're going to go to Genesis 8. So we've talked about Genesis 6 through 7, a little bit of 9, where we kind of see how there's the reversal of Genesis 1, but also the redoing of Genesis 1, the decreation, the recreation. Yeah. So previous chapters describe the cause of the flood and how the flood is decreation or reversal of Genesis. Dr. Morales points out that with the liturgical priestly function of cleansing of mind, this could also be seen as God's first cleansing of the world of sin, which I thought was really interesting. But that would probably be a conversation better served with that specific framework in mind in the future. But the idea, the idea of the cleansing that's happening here, this ritual cleansing. So we spent some time on this in episode 2 of Chaos War, if you want to check that out, regarding the actual flood event itself. But that's the context we're coming from, we just had all this flood language, that reversal of Genesis 1. Genesis 9 and a little bit of 8 depicts the recreation of sorts. So if we were to pick up in Genesis 8, but God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the livestock that were with him in the ark, and God made a wind blow over the earth. Fun fact, that wind there is the same word for Genesis 1, day 2, for verse 2, which is the Ruach. We have the Ruach is the wind.
You owe me a Coke.
Okay. But it's there, and it's blowing over.
I thought you were going to slap me. I think you just reached back. Just
No, I wasn't going to do that.
So,
I was just going to say...
The intrusive thought's about to take over.
I was just going to say the wind's blowing over.
Yeah.
And revealing the earth and the water subsiding.
I wasn't going to stop it. I was going to let it happen.
Which is going to be a lot like the Exodus 14 and 15 narrative as I'm trying to rein you back in. I'm going to bring a wind to you at some point.
I know how you meant it, but it honestly sounded like you were going to fart at me.
Thank goodness. Your mother listens to this.
Yeah, she already knew. Please, the woman lived with me for 18 years. She knows.
Anyways, I just think it's interesting. We have this mixture of the decreation and cleansing, right? And now you have a wind, or God's spirit, or his ruach, his breath, is now blowing over everything again to subside the waters for the land. And now we're starting to get that recreation moment. So that's just kind of getting the narrative going on. We're not really just going to stop there. So we'll just keep going. The fountains of the Tehom and the windows of the Shamayim were closed. The rain from the Shamayim was restrained, and the Mayim receded from the land continually. At the end of 150 days, the Mayim had decreased, and in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to settle or rest on Mount Ararat, which is a mountain of descent, which means mountain of descent. It's in Chaldean. The trembling light mount, the curse reversed, precipitation of a curse. I think that's interesting that in the Chaldean and Hebrew, it's a reversal of curse is what it means.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's where they landed, is reversal, which is exactly what's about to happen, is a reversal. And it's also the mountain of descent. Well, what's eventually going to happen to Noah? They're going to descend. It's literally just kind of laying all out for you that they're on the pinnacle point of, we're now flipping things over. And so within this region, fun fact, it's a subdivision of Armenia, and is a mountain nearly 17,000 feet in elevation. It's a big mountain.
It's a big boy.
It's a big boy.
That's a big boy.
It's up there. And this is one of those things I mentioned, like we're going to see mountains where sometimes are actually big, and sometimes mountains that are like little bumps in comparison, but they're truly like they're the biggest one. But this is a big boy. This is the point that,
dang boy, he thick.
Yeah. But this is the mountain that they're going to be sitting on. And it's this mountain that God is reversing everything. And I think that context is important to understand, that we have here is we have a literal mountain that they're sitting on. And it's on that mountain that the reversal of this curse, or the reversal of this flood, happens. This revealing of light, this trembling, this descending is about to take place. It's just all just really interesting that it is on this mountain by this name that this happens. Okay, so let's pick up in verse 15 through 20.
Yeah.
So then God said to Noah, which is rest, which I just find that God is saying to rest. God said to rest, go out from the ark, you and your wife. So we're not going to begin that descending down the mountain, and your sons and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you of all flesh, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So rest went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with them. Every beast, every creeping thing, every bird, everything that moves on the earth went out by families from the ark. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird, and offered olot on the altar. I really have grown to love this word and what this means. So it comes from olah, which is not Spanish. We're not talking about Spanish. But olah, which is a word we usually translate as the burnt offering.
Right.
But its root, so it deals with something that goes up.
Yes.
Is what the root means. It means to ascend.
Yeah.
Which I think you're going to see the really cool parallels we're going to be getting here. So but here's how it works. Okay, so this another way that scholars like Michael Morales would call it. He said he would kind of call it in his books the going up offering.
Yeah.
Rather than just a burnt offering, because he's playing into the root. So the reason why they would think of that is the whole burnt offering consumes that which is in the flames.
Right.
And so it brings it goes up in the flame of the altar of God to expressing the ascent of a soul in worship. This is Morales speaking. All of the victim is laid on the altar, excepting the hide and such parts as could not be washed clean. If beast, it must be male without blemish. So kind of going over the specifics here. But effectively what we're getting here is, why is it referred to as a going up offering? Well, first off, logically speaking, you're producing smoke, and smoke goes where? It goes up.
Yeah.
But what is the significance of that? So in their mind, they're not thinking of it as these burnt offerings as it just strictly as you burn something, you're done. And they're therefore destroying something. They're actually seeing it as like a transformation, right? So the burnt offering is the subject, if you will, or the object that's in the fire is being transformed into the smoke theologically, and is going to the heavens, to where God is. And they are vicariously going through that thing that's going up. What is interesting, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but this is the very thing that God tells Abraham to do to Isaac.
Yes.
Which is Isaac going up the mountain, which, again, I'm going to mention this next week, but I think it's kind of fun that Isaac is told to be prepared as a burnt offering, a going up offering to ascend the mountain to heaven, but he's also already ascending the mountain. So he's effectively doing it while also not doing it at the same time.
Ascension.
Yeah. And so they would see this as the smoke would rise up to the Lord, and so God would breathe this in and be the sweet smell aroma, because it is the atonement that they are vicariously going through. It is that perfect blemish-free atonement as going up to him. And they're vicariously going through that with him. Is their way of trying to go back to being with God through this ritual that was spiritually kind of conveying the idea of they are back with God, back in his presence, even though they're not actually in Eden in his presence.
It's interesting that here that he says, and all wild beasts, as many are with thee, and all flesh, right? Both of birds and beasts, and every reptile moving upon the earth. Interesting there to point out that all flesh.
Yeah.
Right. And so for then you to talk about the ascension offering, right? The going up offering. You have this thing where it's taking all the flesh and descending.
Yeah.
But Noah ascends
vicariously,
right?
Yeah, through this. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's the mountain of descent, which is the waters descending, decreasing. They're going to go down the mountain, and Noah's going vicariously up through him through the mountain, which is part of that whole. If these offerings are usually given like kind of like in response, like on the Day of Atonement, like okay, we are doing this now because we are seeking to be right with the Lord. Yeah, that's why there is the blemish-free sacrifice that is going up on behalf of them. To quote Morales in his book Exodus Old and New, and is also referenced in his mountain Who Shall Ascend, also referenced in his book Who Shall Ascend the Mountain of the Lord.
Yes.
While sacrifice entails immolation, the whole burnt offering's profound theology signifies more than the victim's death, as the entire animal is given over to Yahweh, consumed on the flames of his altar. The whole burnt offering both symbolized and solicited utter consecration unto God, and this consecration was central to redemption purpose of God. He then states later, the entire animal conveys the sense of utter consecration, a life yielded entirely to Yahweh, which I just loved that phrasing. The idea of like, because you're vicariously going through that and you're saying the whole animal, it's not just part of the animal, the whole animal.
Right.
You're giving this entirety of the animal that's supposed to symbolize you're giving your entirety back over to him. And so he would then say, in full submission to his will and complete obedience to his law, which how often we not do that?
I know.
And how often do they not do that? But there is then an essential element of absolute surrender and total self-dedication involved in the ascension offering, which, however vicarious, must contribute to our understanding of its peculiar influence upon God. It is the gesture of utter consecration, including the fundamental element of atonement underlying it, that alone explains its profound in the divine estimation, indeed as instituted by God himself.
Yeah, and that, I don't want to get too far ahead because I imagine we'll talk about it, but Elijah on Carmel comes up there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because there you have fire from heaven coming down and consuming the whole offering.
Right.
So now you have fire descending
to
ascend something that is intended as surrender to God.
Yeah.
And so you have God consuming something as surrender to God.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't that?
Yes. But I think what's also interesting too is, as we're going to see with 21, there's a mixture of like a hopeful and sad reality at the same time.
Yeah.
With God's statement. But what's cool, interesting about it is even in the statement about the offering, is the idea that there already has to be something that man is vicariously going through to be with Lord. We just kind of looked at how cool it is that this offering has this deep theological significance beyond, I think, just the whole, here's another kind of offering that we kind of hear about in church, is the idea of like, it is the posture of complete and total surrender, because you're surrendering the entirety of this animal that you are vicariously going through, that's being transformed into the smoke, this some aroma that travels into the heavens, which we've discussed in episode 1, is viewed as the dwelling place of the gods, and even Israel has that same view. But there has to be that mediator, if you will, even though like that mediator is doing it unwillingly, but it's that mediator that humanity needs that. And that is the situation that we're in right now. But it's also this beautiful thing that there is still that opportunity that there's something that can be done in some capacity for that restoration, for that alignment, for that complete and total dedication unto Yahweh, which I don't know. I just think that's kind of really cool. You get this little dichotomy of like sad reality and like hopeful reality at the same time of what this means.
There's something to be said about that though for the cross as well, right? Which is you have this hopeful reality, obviously, of the salvation offered through it. But there's a sad reality. Christ is innocent, and yet we killed him, right? Christ knew no sin, yet became sin for our sake. That's sad. It's kind of funny that we call it Good Friday, because it's from the perspective of morality, it's one of the worst days in human history.
Well, it's the same thing with Eucharist.
Right.
The word itself, like, it does not entail mourning or sadness, but there is still that, like, this is what had to be done.
Right. Yes. For me, because I couldn't stop sinning.
Because I didn't have any self-control to do these things.
I want to change my phrasing there, because I wouldn't stop sinning. So you could not, so you would not. That's something I've been intentional about recently, is ensuring that the language I use is correct. And that when I ask God, why can't I stop sinning? I go, no. Why don't I? It's not that I cannot, it's that I do not.
Why won't I do it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is it's just that, which is why I was kind of alluding. It's why I was kind of alluding to it with the whole idea there's that mediator, but it's unwilling. But then there is that willing mediator who descends and ascends for us, and is that entire. In fact, I'm just going to quote Morales again, 'cause I just thought his work on this was phenomenal. Sure, really cool. So I've already kind of said this, but just kind of hear it again. The altar fire, in other words, do not destroy the sacrificed animal; rather, the fire is transformed blameless. Right. So this idea again of it's this transformation of the smoke. It's not that we're destroying something to forgive us, as we kind of think about. It's the idea that the smoke is supposed to be the sweet smelling aroma, which means it has to travel somewhere. And that sweet smelling aroma is of the animal that is going up. Okay, so it's a transformation.
Right. Well, and it is, it's funny to describe it as sweet, right? Because generally, like, the smell of burning flesh is not something I'd describe as sweet, right? But there is a sweetness to it, right? Like kind of what we're talking about. There is a sweetness to it, right? Where it is this pleasing aroma because of what it means, not inherently what it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I find that interesting that there's a, and it says, Lord God, smell the smell of sweetness. We have different nostrils then.
Yeah. But to continue with Morales, the refining fire of the Holy Spirit forms a fitting analogy, and the author of Hebrews may have had this in mind when he said that Jesus offered himself up to God through the eternal Spirit, based on Hebrews 9:14. So beyond consecration, the whole burnt offering symbolized the transformation necessary for the journey back to God.
Interesting.
Indeed, the Hebrew designation for the whole burnt offering, translated more literally as ascension offering, derived from its ritual focus. As transformed by the altar flames, the entire animal turned into fragrant smoke, so that the sacrifice would ascend to Yahweh's heavenly abode as a soothing aroma. I just loved how he kind of tied that passage with Hebrews. The idea that it's through the Spirit, the idea that through the Spirit, that maybe this, you can't prove it, but it seems likely that he had that in mind in some capacity, which is just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, no line of the Bible really is written without intention. Like, obviously, as all Scripture is God breathed, Therefore, every single word has some significance to it. And so I would not put that past, obviously, the author of Hebrews.
It'd be really cool if that was what he was playing with. The idea is that refining fire of the Spirit, sacrifice through the Spirit, and it's that whole transformation that is brings us back to God. It's that journey.
Yeah.
And I love the idea is the journey because there is that travel upwards, which is what you have to do to ascend the mountain, which kind of brings up to the question for the biblical authors frequently is who will ascend the mountain,
right?
Which is why Morales names his book the way he did, is who will ascend the mountain, because we're on the mountain of descent and Noah's descending, but he's also ascending through a vicarious offering. But he's also not himself the one who's going up. He was put on the mountain and he has to go down. So the question keeps on being, who will ascend the mountain that will bring us through that journey vicariously?
Yeah.
Back to God. And who will do that? Who is going to be able to do that? And that's a repeating question. It's kind of like our Chaos Monster series. Who will slay the dragon?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the one to slay the dragon and bring us back up the mountain of God, back to Eden, back to that journey where we are transformed with him? No longer just like something represents us transformed. Like we are transformed with him to go up there so we can be on that journey back to God. It is just so cool how even just one little word in this theology with that one little background, the root for that Hebrew word just kind of goes like, whoa, that already tells you the whole, almost the entirety of the idea of a burnt offering and how it plays into the idea of ascending the mountain and how it ascends to Yahweh. And we're trying to ascend that mountain to Yahweh. We have to keep sending representatives up there for us.
Right.
And sometimes he says, no, you can't come up the mountain. Like in Exodus 19. Don't send them up. They stay down. You come up, they stay.
Yeah.
Which is just really interesting. I don't know. I just think it's really, really cool.
Oh, no, it's fascinating.
All right, so why don't we go to 21, verse we kind of referenced before. So it is this act we just mentioned before, the whole burnt offering, that precedes this response from Yahweh.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's important to see that there is a double kind of like layer here. There's two layers here of Yahweh's response, but we'll read it first. When the Lord smelled a pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done, while the earth remains seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer, winter, day and night shall not cease. And that's 21 through 22. So on one hand, we have the sad reality that evil is still within humanity. Like he even outright says, I'll never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. So that evil from his youth is that there's an issue here. There's still that evil thing, which has raised some question for some people, like, did God fail here? If he sought out to flood and cleanse the earth, but they're still here, did he fail? And that's what some people, like skeptics, will throw. It's like, okay, maybe he failed here. And it's like, well, hold on. Well, let's look at the entirety of what he's saying here. There's more to be said here. Because first off, remember, this is in response to something else. And remember that Noah is still being called out as the one that is righteous, that God has chosen to save, that he's choosing to work through, that will be his representative.
Yeah, I know. And we have to, I talked about this recently with my youth group kids. We have to understand that when somebody's called blameless, it doesn't mean they're sinless.
Right.
It just means everybody around them is so evil that they can't blame the person that God's calling.
Yeah. But like, that's a question that I've heard some people throw out there. It's like, did God fail because they're still here? There's still this issue. And it's like, well, hold on. There's a certain set of issues for why he flooded everything.
Right. The purpose of the flood was not to erase sin.
Yeah.
Right? That's what a lot of people think. I mean, I'm sorry to kind of step on your toes.
No, you're good.
But that's a lot of people think, oh, the flood was to wipe out sin. No. The flood was never going to be able to do that. Right? Because as it says here, the intentions of man are inherently evil.
Yeah.
Right. As Jeremiah says, the heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? Right. Humanity has this natural inclination toward evil, right? There is original sin. We are not Pelagian. There is original sin. Right? Humanity has this inclination toward evil because we have this internal desire to be God. The purpose of the flood was not to wipe that away.
Mhm.
Only Christ does that, right? With his flood, if you will. The purpose of the flood then was to remove the people, right? It was to
cleanse the ground.
It was to cleanse the ground, right? Because all of the earth had been used to this point for sin and for evil and for just decadent, creepy, weird sex stuff, mostly,
Mhm.
including human sacrifice, right? So the purpose of the flood then was, as you said, to cleanse the ground, right?
Yeah.
To remove the sin from the earth, in the sense that it's washing away the actual earth, right? Not the sin, but it's removing the earth, because the sin's not going to go away yet.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the sin will remain, right? That's essentially what God is saying here. But this is the only time he's going to completely cleanse the earth itself.
Yeah.
So don't get it twisted. The flood was not for the purpose of sin removal. The flood was for, as Josh said, cleansing the earth.
I mentioned the cleansing because just before this, we have Noah's sacrifice.
Mhm.
Well, before a sacrifice is typically done, there is a ritual cleansing of sorts,
Right.
especially on behalf of the ones who are doing the sacrifice, or the ones that the sacrifice are being done for, or for the sacrifice itself. So first off is that cleansing and that recreation, which is then followed by Noah's sacrifice here. So, and then it is Noah's sacrifice that then prompts this thing that God does.
Right.
Which is why I'm saying there's a sad reality we noticed here, that there is this here. But I'll keep reading something from my notes.
Well, hang on, just before we move on, we have to consider also the type of offering he gives.
Mhm.
The burnt offering is not just an offering like we tithe, right? It's not like our tithe. I had this conversation recently. That's why it came to mind. The burnt offering is one for sin, right? I mean, we kind of poked at it a little bit, but Noah's not sinless. He's still imperfect. He still sins.
Yeah.
And he's about to in chapter 9, pretty significantly.
His son really will.
His son really is gonna, depending on, no matter what way you take it, his son is really gonna be reminding us that humanity is inherently sinful. But no, I mean, the burnt offering, it's an offering specific to covering of sins, right? Just as you were talking about, the vicarious reconnection to God, the whole surrender to God, the recommitment there.
And Noah's doing that to recommit humanity to God.
Humanity, but also himself.
Yeah.
Because Noah's a sinner.
Yeah.
Noah's a sinner just as we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and talking about that sad reality, you know, if God were truly wiping out sin, he would have killed Noah too.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He spares Noah. The goal was never to wipe out all sin.
Right. Which is the only reason I bring up that whole skeptic is because that there's that misunderstanding. Like, you got to see what Noah's doing. So we have Yahweh saying that he will never curse the ground again. I have seen many commentators say it might be better instead that he's never going to add to it again. As in because his idea is that he didn't undo the curse that is found in Genesis 3. Yes, you almost spilled some milk.
I would have cried too.
The reason
where is it? So I can know where to put okay.
The reason they say is because he's not taking away the curse of Genesis 3. They're all very adamant saying that doesn't
right.
Like he's not removing one curse and then leaving the other, or one punishment and leaving the other, or one lament and leaving the other. Depending on how everyone phrase it, but better understood is he's not adding to it. It's not the same better translated, but it's better understood.
Right.
And so he will never destroy all of life in the same way again. And Noah makes this offering of which is done for atonement. And God seems to say that effectively, even though humanity is still wicked, he's accepting and is going to work with the one who surrenders and provides the offering. So that's why I'm saying like this is like a double message where we have on one hand, society, like there's still sin in humanity. But as God's saying, remember this is prompted by the sacrifice. God's saying, I'm never going to do this again because I can work with this. I can work with this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to work with you. I have decided that this is going to work, which I think is really beautiful. It's like I just that really sad reality of, okay, sin's still here, but God saying, I can work with this. I can work with this person who is willing to dedicate himself fully. If you think about that as wisdom literature too, God is going to work with those who are willing to dedicate themselves to him, willing to be in that relationship with him. Those who are going to go apart from him, he's like, as you said, fine, you want that decreation, you want that chaos.
You're going to get it.
You'll get it. I'll give it to you good.
Mm-hmm.
But here, Noah's saying, no, I want to be in union with you. And God's like, I'm going to work with this. I can work with you if you're going to do that. So from the narrative, it was Noah's offering. This is Kenneth Matthews. For the narrative, it was Noah's offering for atonement that prompted God to declare his new intentions toward the sinful earth. New in terms of like narrative wise.
Mm-hmm.
God already knew all this, but in terms of the narrative, it feels new. So despite human propensity towards sin, but this was not a persuasion elicited solely by ritual, for it is constant in Genesis 1 through 11 that the Lord's favor overcomes and supersedes human wickedness. And he quotes Romans 5:15 and 20 through 21 specifically. Moreover, Noah already had a faith relationship with God, for he walked with God. And it was also out of this devotion that his sacrifice pleased God. Here we see God's grace at work in accepting Noah's sacrifice and establishing a new basis for the Lord's relationship with the world. I just thought that was really interesting and well put. That whole idea of like Noah already in that relationship with God. Like this is not like it's a brand new relationship, but is that, okay, I am devoting and sacrificing myself to you. Even though it's the same, I'm going vicariously through. Like I'm going back to you through this thing because I know what you just did. I don't know why you did it. I want to be in alignment with you. And I want my family to be in alignment with you. Even though the very next chapter, that's not what's going to happen. But it's that devotion.
Which God knows.
Yes. But yeah, it's not like God is that response to this. It was prompted by this, but God also already kind of knew this. So for the human experience, this is new. And for the narrative experience, it's new. But also knowing who God is, he's known this.
Yeah.
And he's still responding. I can work with this because you are devoted to me. You are in relationship with me.
Right. And consider Shem and Japheth too.
Yeah.
Right. They respond with righteousness. They do the right thing.
They follow after their father in that step. Rather than Ham, who's going to go a different direction and is going to bring about
an understatement.
Yeah. But the idea that, within the next narrative, we have a return of a garden. We got a vineyard. We got trees, of which Noah takes of, and he ends up being drunk. And, then you have the sin that's really talked about is Ham's sin. Now, we as Christians know that, drunkenness is
right. Yeah.
But it's especially the fact that, okay, Noah uncovers his nakedness, and we've kind of talked back and forth. I think we came to an agreement that seems to more imply his wife.
Right.
And Ham then comes in and asserts himself based on the language of Leviticus as kind of like this idea of like, I'm going to take over, I'm dominating,
right.
I'm going to be the head of the household now. Because clearly you can't do it. You're drunk on the floor. You can't do anything. So I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to be one in charge. And he asserts himself and brings about this horrific thing back into the garden, back into this new garden.
Right.
So if you think about it, okay, we're on a new mountain, we're on Ararat. Noah's effectively acting as a new Adam.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore his wife would be effectively acting as a new Eve, and they then have their children. Ham is effectively acting as a new Cain, but also is acting as an Adam and Eve in the test of the tree and what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a weird mixture where they're all playing with these different roles within that chapter 3 narrative. But it's that, as you were saying, there's the two brothers who are like, I'm going to follow in dedication to God. And there's the, I'm going to follow not in dedication to God. And what do we see? Those who are in dedication to God, there is a lot of prospering. I'm not necessarily talking about the financial, but like they're actually doing well.
Right.
They're experiencing that true joy and that true happiness, the true flourishing, because they're in that relationship with God, even if life is hard.
Yeah.
But then the other one, even if they're doing great world-wise, they're so far from God. And they're basically trying to bring things back into that pre-Genesis 6 state.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that devotion that begins with the sacrifice. And this is the sacrifice that was also not instructed like it is in Leviticus, which means, how did no one know how to do this? Well, maybe you already had these thoughts, but you go back and forth. But like, this was not something that he had to do in the idea of like the Israelites have to do this on these certain days because of this. It was I'm doing this because my desire is this. Is almost like while the Israelites for sure probably would have done with the right heart during the time, and some of them did, some of them didn't. But it's like, this seems to be showing more like Noah's heart and his intention is right relationship with God.
Yeah.
That is the desire. And God goes, I can work with this. Versus, no, I'm not going to work with this. Which I think, like, again, you have that tension of like that sad reality, sin's still here. But that also reality of God's so loving that he's willing to work with those who are devoted to him.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, are you going to devote yourself to him or are you not going to devote to him? And so on this mountain, we have a new Eden, a new Adam. And within the next narrative, we get the new garden. Unfortunately, Genesis 3, whenever you have a garden moment, you tend to have a Genesis 3 moment. That's just a sad reality. But on this mountain, we have,
always.
Well, almost always.
But not always.
But not always, exactly. But on this mountain, we have a recreation with the mountain coming out of the waters, like the land coming out of Genesis 1. So I mentioned last episode, I didn't want to go back to.
Right.
Here I can, because we have a mountain coming up out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
The land's coming up out of the water. Well, again, if this is a redoing of Genesis 1, you have a land coming out of the water.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how you get the Genesis 1 there. And that's why I said I didn't want to jump straight to Genesis 1 at first, because it would seem like a stretch. But when you have the Genesis 6 through 9 narrative, you can see how they fit back to Genesis 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it is here that God provides life. The new Adam and priests make an offering to the one who provided a passageway of life back onto a mountain, although it is not the mountain just yet. It is not yet the mountain of God in the same sense. But is that there's a chance that we can go back still. Is that hopeful reality of we can still go back. But the question is, who's going to get us back there?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the constant question that's we're going to see throughout. Is like, how are we going to get back here?
Yeah.
Or who's going to send and look like they're about to bring us back there? And then they don't, but then they do, but then they don't. And it's this whole like, okay, who's going to send the mountain? And that's kind of like the fun thing about Genesis 8 is it kind of sets up all those questions with all those different little prompts. Yeah, that's it.
No, I mean, there's obviously a lot happening there. And I'm sure you could probably read it again and find even more.
Oh, yeah.
And you could probably go verse by verse. And I mean, you could do that with every single passage in the Bible, right? Even the genealogies that people like to poop on.
Oh, for sure.
You could still find a lot in.
I didn't want to do that with this one because Genesis 2, I feel like doing that with because there's so many setups.
Mm-hmm.
This one is like the big setup, in my opinion, is the offering itself, which sets up everything else. And now we have like those two chapters. Because you can see Genesis 2 moments kind of again.
Right.
So I didn't really feel like we had to rehash that as much. But when you see that, okay, now we have an offering. What does the offering entail? Now you're going to see the offering tied into the mountain narrative in some capacity and what that resembles. And then you can go through the other ones. And you just have to go verse by verse. Like we're going to go through Abraham and, we're probably going to see like, man, I wish we spent more time here. But this thing we're like, we're looking at the narrative and how it's playing with the mountain language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see what they're doing here now.
Right.
I see how this ties.
And it's fun to kind of watch the building blocks start to develop.
Yes.
Right. Or each time this comes up, every narrative, right? Every time it comes up, whether it be a flood, whether it be, the garden, whether it be the mountain, you see another layer added.
Yeah.
Right? There's another block placed on top, and it's all just building up towards Christ.
Which I love when I was reading, where I'm excited to go over this in the Chaos
very
Monster
Italian
notes,
right now.
the Chaos Monster notes. I knew when I started connecting the dots we already connected the dots on Matthew and Exodus. I already had that in my mind. When I started connecting the dots with the Chaos Monster
and
how that plays with Exodus, and when Matthew plays into that, I was like, oh, I'm seeing so many narratives coming together. And it's like, that weird reality of like, whoa, everything's in reverse. And I don't know if you watched in the stream, but in the stream I mentioned like, whoa, before Egypt was the persecutors of Israel, that they were the dragon, they were the problem. Now Egypt is a saving place to go,
right?
Because it is God's people's land that's become Egypt,
right?
Is that reversal, which really isn't? It's a reversal of the reversal, because prior to Egypt doing it to Israel, was Abraham and Sarah doing it to Hagar,
right?
And it's like, okay, you see what Hagar and Sarah do that. See what Abraham and Sarah did to Hagar.
Yeah.
And now you see it reversed on a grander scale. And now you see it reversed again with the New Testament. And it's that, whoa, this is not just an Egypt problem, as I think we kind of like, oh, poo-poo Egypt. Like, this goes back to even God's people before being enslaved by Egypt.
Yep.
Just all these narratives coming together. And when you see them all stack on, it's like the gospel is so much bigger than I think we ever realized.
Amen. Well, we'd like to thank you all so very much for watching. We do hope that you have gotten a lot out of this series so far.
I have.
Yeah, we all know Josh has. We all know Josh has. I have gotten a lot out of it too. I know I've been a little quieter this series, but it's because I've been taking in and learning a lot more. I was not really familiar with this subject at all, so it's been nice to kind of just sit back and learn for a little bit.
I'm excited when we hit New Testament with Jesus. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'll have a lot of fun. I'll have more fun next week, especially because I am very familiar with Genesis 22.
Yeah.
So,
because I think what we're going to do is we could go to Genesis 11 with the temple theology. I think we're going to say that we actually kind of address how temples would start coming in.
Sure.
So I think that kind of will fit together and it will not make the series extra long. It'll kind of fit into one piece of the puzzle. But yeah.
So Lord willing, I should have a good amount more to contribute next week. Especially, we're going to talk about Genesis 22. That, of course, is going to bring me to Hebrews 11.
Oh, yeah. We're going there.
And there's a lot there that you can talk about. There's a lot, obviously, with the crucifixion that you can talk about, and the resurrection, and, the promises that God makes in Genesis 22. There's a lot to talk about there. Yeah. So I will have more to contribute there. But I really hope that you've gotten as much out of this as I have, because I have gotten a lot out of this. I've been learning a lot, and that's been really nice. And if you have, then you owe us a subscribe button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Neither does a like button, if you can believe it. It's a wonderful system. And the bell.
The bell helps you know when we release things.
I sleep on the bell. But the bell is important. You can go ahead and click the bell, click all to receive all notifications. Or if you only want the videos, you can hit personalized and miss out on our awesome Verse of the Week posts, as well as any updates, channel updates, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Polls on the rare occasion that we do them.
We just know people have been voting on them lately, but maybe they might. We might soon.
Say we're growing.
So we might get some people who want to.
Thanks. You only 2 Cokes, man.
Freaking guy.
Thank you all so much for watching, and we really hope you have a wonderful God bless day. Peace.